Hello and welcome to the Renovation Nation show brought to you by Red Maples, your go-to source for institutional style property management of small multifamily rentals. I'm your host, Nathan Bush, and each show we share with you real life lessons from our real estate experience. We invite industry innovators, experts, and influencers to explore the challenges facing small multifamily real estate investors. We've designed this show to answer some questions you have about researching your market, setting up effective management systems, and maximizing your returns. If you want more of these types of regular communication and resources, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel or head over to www.nathanbushmba.com/subscribe and check out the other resource links in the show description. I encourage you, if you're a viewer today, make sure you put some comments in the notes. Let us know if you're a first-time viewer, that you're here, where you're from. And if you have a question throughout today's show, whether for me or some of my guests, I'll be happy to make sure that we get an answer to those questions, whether we do it online or offline. Make sure you get your question in. All right, guys. Renovation Nation, a few years back, I found myself on a catamaran in the turquoise water of Hawaii. It wasn't a typical tourist trip, but a special gathering for business owner champions of an organization I was a part of. On this boat, I was in the company of 50 top business owners and executives, each titans in their respective market. One in particular person that stood out to me was a seasoned CEO. He was actually the one responsible for bringing everybody together on the trip, and he had steered and grouped a group of Fortune 500 companies. So he had worked for a couple of different Fortune 500 companies before he became the CEO of the organization that pulled this entire group together. And as we sailed in this picturesque Hawaiian coastline, me and my wife, along with these group of business owners, I had the good fortune of being able to ask this gentleman questions and just have general conversation. I mean, I don't know if you've ever been out of your league before and been with people that are well respected, have been mega performers, superstars, titans in industry, and you're amongst them and you get to have normal conversation. This didn't feel normal to me to be in this picturesque environment, this turquoise water, Hawaiian coastline with Fortune 500 CEOs. However, I got to be a part of that. And he shared with me his perspective on leadership. The most critical task of a leader, he told me, was to find points of agreement, common interest within a team or an organization. Any group has its differences. There's diversity, there's culture, there's background. In fact, Amy Nunn, in her book, Dirty Lenses, writes about this different perspective, talking about how we all have different lenses that are put on through our experiences, through our education, and through our environment. And so we have to remove this diversity by finding shared values and common ground. That's what brings us together, he said. That's what fosters a sense of unity and purpose. So if there's ever conflict, just go back to the things that you can agree on. That advice has stuck with me. It's a lesson in unity and in the power of finding shared values and interests. It's about building bridges, about building connection within your company, your team, or even with your clients, as opposed to putting up walls and barriers that are going to restrict the relationship. This conversation is a valuable reminder that as leaders, we have an opportunity to unite and inspire our teams and our clients and those around us with goals and shared values. And that's a responsibility we shouldn't take lightly. In fact, that's why I have two amazing guests on the show for you today. We're going to have Josh Weissler up in just a moment, who was a leadership coach, and I'll let him tell you all about his story. He's also a mega real estate investor in the St. Louis area. I also have Travis Durbin, another leadership coach. All of the point of bringing Travis Durbin and Josh to the show, Travis has a background in real estate. You're going to love what Travis has to say and his points that he has to share with you today. The whole reason that I wanted to bring some people up on this show is because, number one, this show is all about relationships. This show today is going to be all about how to build these relationships, how to grow your relationships in real estate, and how to improve your relationship with your tenants. In lieu of Valentine's Day, I wanted to take time to talk about relationships. And so before we get into relationships, one relationship you need is our first sponsor, Red Maples. Red Maples is your go-to source for institutional style property management. They work with you to help you achieve double-digit returns in small multifamily rental real estate. If you'd like more information about Red Maples, head on over to red-maples.com/assessment and get your assessment for your portfolio started today. Now back to the show. All right. I want to bring up Josh and Travis, and we'll get into their background and their stories. But I got to know, have you guys seen this movie, The Proposal?
For me, Nathan, it's a little bit like a chick flick. It doesn't seem like my kind of movie.
Yeah, I figured you'd say that, Travis. How about you, Josh? Have you seen this movie?
So I have 3 girls in my house, as well as multiple. So we call those romantic comedies in our place. I've seen pieces of it, but haven't seen the full thing. Love the actors, but yeah, just haven't watched it myself. It's not always my type of movie either. So
yeah, in the spirit of love and connection, let's start with a nod to this classic rom-com, guys. I love this movie because Sandra Bullock and Ryan Reynolds' characters find unexpected common ground. And today we're going to explore with both of you how landlords and tenants can go from contractual acquaintances to mutually respectful partnerships. I think one of the challenges that people have in the landlord-tenant situation, before we even go any too much further, I think one of the challenges they have, and I'll let Travis speak to this, one of the problems most people have in this world is when they have a contractual relationship, like a relationship with an employer, or they have a contractual relationship like they're a vendor of a company, or they have a contractual relationship like they're a tenant. They forget that there's a relationship still there. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about that, Travis?
I think it's definitely a hindrance sometimes because we forget that the contract is a piece of paper, but it's between 2 human beings. And that relationship sometimes can become strong enough that a contract can be a bridge to help the relationship. And what I mean by that is if I'm a landlord and I'm looking at my tenant, yes, I have a contract for rent, but I have to realize that they're a human being also. And there are situations that are going to happen, and they're going to have times, they could have tough times, things like that. And it's all about communicating those tough times. Same thing from a tenant. You have to realize your landlord is a human being. So you want to, stay in communication with them if you are having a hard time, or if there's something wrong with the property you need help with. If you have that relationship with your landlord, and it's a very positive relationship, you're going to get much more accomplished than if you have an adversarial relationship.
For sure, Josh. I know you use contracts in your business.
Oh yeah.
How important is the contract compared to the relationship?
So we use contracts in a couple different ways. So I have that coaching company. We help small business owners with like reclaiming their time, and they're reducing their stress as well as making more money. And we have a contract in that for a year. It's a year membership, and I like to look at it kind of my mantra, and we developed this starting in the real estate side, but we like to look at it is we like to do business, and even with our tenants too, we like to do business. We like to have relationships first, where we like to do business with people that we know, like, and trust, and we don't feel we need that paperwork. That's kind of the threshold for us to determine if we're going to move forward, and then we put it on paper. So like the relationship for us is kind of the litmus test to see if we even want to put a contract in place. And that communication for us is huge in regards to that, because the contract is great, but we're all human and we all run into life situations, and we all cope with those life situations differently. If we're maintaining communication, we feel that we all can work through it together as a partnership, as opposed to, like Travis said, an adversarial position, if that all makes sense.
Why don't you take a second, Josh, and just share with everybody, as before we get too deep into this, because today, guys, if you can't tell, there's a lot of value these two guys have that they're going to give and share with you today. If you're watching or you're watching on replay, the reason I started off with direct questions as opposed to their background is to share with you the level of knowledge these guys have in relationships. And isn't that fantastic? If you think that's fantastic online, guys, go ahead and share that. Share something you just learned from Travis and Josh, because I'm taking notes already. All right, Josh, so why don't you take a little bit of time and share with the audience a little bit about your background and what got you to working with me on this show today?
Oh, man. It's almost a 20-year journey in the making. So I started in real estate probably 17 years ago. Not successful, was doing all this stuff like looking to wholesale. Really took a hold about 5 years ago, and it's when I started with like my coach. I put some money up. He made me put skin in the game, which actually made me invested into having success. So learned wholesaling from him. Did dozens of deals for like the first 3 years, and he was a coach, national speaker, and so he brought me in, started coaching. I learned how to sell with him. I learned how to coach investors. But for me, I really enjoyed that coaching piece, and I got connected with my current partner, Grant, about 3 years ago, and we decided to build out a investment brokerage because he was a traditional broker for 20 years, and so he's got multiple successful businesses. Very successful man, and one of the smartest guys I have ever met. And we decided to build out this investment brokerage, and we realized real quick, and this is where that relationship and communication started happening. We found out real quick that investors like to kind of run their own show. And so creating infrastructure and systems and having them follow it's really difficult unless you're looking to build a big business. Kind of like Nathan, your background, like those hedge funds and kind of the institutional stuff you guys are looking to build. And we didn't really want that. So we pivoted our expertise into the coaching model. I was already coaching. He's been a coach for years. And so we started building out our membership model, and we coach emerging executives. We started in the investing world, but we found that our process actually overlays to everyone's business, can overlay into everyone's business to build those practices. And a lot of that revolves around communication and how you're actually approaching things in your communication, not just with other people, but also yourself, because we all have an inner monologue. We all have things that we tell ourselves that nobody else hears. And it's important to rewrite how you talk to yourself. So with all that being said, to tie it all together, we started this coaching company. I'm still doing real estate with my partner, Laura. We have an 11-unit multifamily, so we have tenants as well. We've had that for about 2 years. You've actually looked at the numbers on that in the building. And then we've also got a commercial building down in High Ridge. And one of the things in my journey is helping these business owners create the dreams and catalyze the dreams that they don't normally have. And that's really how we ended up at the event last year with Rich Groves, one of my other partners. We held Gateway to Freedom, which we had about a little under 100 people for a first time event in St. Louis, where we brought 17 speakers together to basically communicate with the public and share information and knowledge and just grow the community. And so that is where we're currently at, and building out those 3 separate lanes for me is what we're doing, and finding out more and more every day that communication is one of the most vital skills that you can have, and learning how you're showing up in your communications is just as important as what you are communicating. And there are a lot of things you're probably communicating unknowingly and unintentionally that is sabotaging you or your business. So
absolutely. And Travis, Josh, I appreciate your background story. Travis, share with the audience a little bit about your background and what brought you to the relationship and how you got to be on the show today, so that people can follow that journey as well.
My journey's a little different. I have had businesses in the past. I have bought and sold real estate. I have flipped houses. I owned my own restaurant before. So I came to this business from failure. And when I looked in the mirror over a period of time, I realized that the mirror was the problem. So I set out on a journey to learn, if I can coach myself and learn how to coach myself, can I help other people doing that? And so I started planting seeds with individuals. I became a John Maxwell coach and trainer and speaker. And one of my favorite books from John Maxwell is Everyone Communicates But Few Connect. And it really hits on the end of what Josh was just saying, is it's not only about communicating, but it's about connecting. And there's a big difference between communication and connecting. So in my leadership business, that's what I focus on. I focus on primarily individuals in marriages, where you look up and you're communicating, but are you really still connected? And that rolls over in the business world as well. Like he was just saying, there's a lot of times you're communicating, but you're communicating things that you don't really see: body posture, language, facial expressions, those types of things. So in my coaching, it goes along with that, and it can really help in your tenant-client relationship of understanding different personalities, different personality traits. I can't come and talk to Nathan you the same way I would come and talk to someone else. So being able to decipher that and see which relationship and which person you're talking to can help you connect on that level where you can make a positive influence. So for me, it's about planting seeds and growing and giving back and learning from mistakes.
Yeah. So this first question that I'll put out there is for you, Travis, is that, a relationship can't thrive without good communication. And, if you think about misunderstandings in the tenant relationship and how things can sour, how do you know if your communication channels are clear with the tenant? And how do you know if you're playing a game of telephone with a tenant or if you're actually having good, solid communication?
I think the key is to listen to understand and not listen to respond. The first thing we want to do when we're talking to people is we automatically want to come up with a response. We want a response. But in a tenant situation, the problem or the situation that they could be facing is the most important thing to them at the moment in time. And it may not be the most important thing to you, but if you can take a step back and take a beat and realize the perspective of where they're coming from, listen to understand them and not just listen to respond, I feel that is the biggest key to connecting.
For sure. For sure. Now, Josh, one of the other major pain points that tenants have is when you don't fix maintenance issues. When these maintenance issues go unaddressed and repairs aren't being done in a timely fashion, nothing says, I don't care about you, like not fixing a maintenance request that a tenant has. Can you speak a little bit about relationships with people, about this I don't care factor and where that comes from?
All right. So just so I have clarity on like, are you asking where the I don't care work, and this is part of that communication piece. So it's very, I want to make sure I get clear on it. There is a I don't care feeling, which can be assumed, or there is a direct, like, you don't care about me. So, and we don't really experience that. We've heard that with some angry tenants when they're getting ready to leave because they weren't keeping X, Y, and Z. But for us, and my partner, Laura, is great on this. She runs the tenant relations piece. I actually do the maintenance repairs. I run that. And so for us, that piece of I don't care, it does really come into a lot of times just updating the communication, letting them know, like, hey, we may not be able to get there till X, Y, and Z based on the urgency of the item, but we have a plan in place. And hitting what you are communicating you're going to do builds that, showing it's going to happen, builds that integrity as well as builds that trust. And I think if I'm understanding the correct question correctly, the I don't care or you don't care about me comes from that assumption that, like, you aren't caring that it is impacting me as a person and impacting my space. Even though it's your building, it's impacting my space and my life, and you don't take that into consideration enough to put something into place to remedy this and make my life easier. So yeah, the whole energy of I don't care will normally come from a lack of communication piece or pushing off something that can be easily remedied. And I don't know if you've had this experience, Nathan. You have more experience with property management than I do, probably, or I know you do. It's really just a matter of, like, showing them you're going to do something and doing it.
Josh,
If
I
all that
think
makes
that
sense.
that's the major piece to this whole puzzle when we talk about caring is that it's not that it takes time to do or repair an issue unless it's an emergent issue. I think the
Right.
challenge that the tenant runs into and the feeling that they're having is in the lack of communication, the lack of understanding that you're taking care of or addressing an issue behind the scenes. And I think this happens in relationships, Travis. I think that in relationships, a husband or a wife will say something to one another And because even though the husband or wife may be working on it behind the scenes, there's no communication taking place in the relationship. And so it causes frustration. That wife doesn't think that he's thinking about it, or the husband doesn't think that the wife cares about the thing that he cares about. What would you say to that?
Well, I think the word that Josh was looking for was talking about was follow up. If a tenant calls you, and let's say it's not an extremely emergent thing, and follow up, we can be there on Tuesday. Okay, follow up with them on Monday and let them know, hey, you're still on my appointment, you're still on my calendar for Tuesday, that type of thing. Now, to go to your question as far as relationships, that goes back to the personality traits. I do a lot with DISC assessments, and that's something that's really helped my wife and I when we both did a DISC assessment together, to see that her communication skill and my communication skill is a completely different process. I am brief, give me the points, give me the facts, and move on. My wife needs the story. She needs the understanding. She needs me to tell her, hey, I still remember that. I'm going to get to it. The old saying of, I can change the light bulb, but I didn't tell you which day I was going to change the light bulb. So it's all about the communication piece and understanding that, one person may just need to, hey, I'm going to get the light bulb. It'll be fine. Some people need to know, hey, I'm going to get the light bulb today. I'm going to get the light bulb tomorrow, and follow up on that. Hey, I do still remember that light bulb. It's on my list. That way they don't just think you're ignoring it. That goes back to the I don't care factor. They think you don't care, even though mentally you have it in your head. You have to communicate that, and you have to connect that with them for them to feel that it's still a level of importance.
Yeah, I love that, Travis. One of the companies that cares a lot about the communication in the relationship is our second sponsor on the show today, and that's Web Insurance. Let Web Insurance be your guide. They can review your current coverages and make sure that you have the correct policies in place at the most affordable prices. And what their clients love about them is every year they proactively shop your insurance to ensure you're truly with the most affordable carrier at the appropriate coverage for you. From contractor to real estate agent or investor, let Web Insurance be your guide. Very appreciative of Web Insurance being a sponsor on the show. All right, back to you guys. Josh, I think you had a point that you wanted to say in relation to that.
Yeah, I wanted to piggyback on what Travis said, and it's an amazing point, because what comes up for me in that is gaps in communication. Normally, how we fill those gaps in communication are assumptions. We assume things. We have to assume things because our mind doesn't like gaps. They like to fill it in. Now, how that person is built and how their history is what forms those assumptions. And so one of the things, not just if there's a lack of communication, the other thing that happens is in our communication, we also make assumptions. If and that's where that feeling of not caring can come in, where it's like, hey, I feel or I assume they understand what I'm communicating. And a great example is, as we're talking to either new tenants or even like in our coaching company, and we're looking for referrals. And Nathan, we've had this conversation, is like, I'll assume they understand something, but if I'm not directly communicating and verifying that they know, then my assumption is going to be incorrect, most likely, because my viewpoint is different than their viewpoint and where they're referencing. So we have to come to a middle understanding. And that's where, Travis, you were saying that follow-up of like, hey, you are on my radar tomorrow at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday, saying that on Monday, that bridges that gap and fills in that gap. They don't have to assume that they're still going to be, and I'm still working to become better at that as well, is like, they don't have to make an assumption whether or not they're going to get taken care of.
Tenants are more than just a check. I'm sure you guys both agree with that. They're the lifeblood of your investment. And I know from studying some of the Maxwell stuff with you, Travis, that people are valuable. We all have value. And I think that one of the challenges that lack of communication really breeds is a lack of appreciation. This lack of appreciation, when people don't feel appreciated, they don't feel valuable. What are some things that you do in your business relationships to show appreciation to other people? Of course, there's a proverbial thank you card that you can send to somebody. but I don't know how much. I don't know what level of appreciation that is, or even if that's. I don't even know if people value the. Let's talk about that for a second. Do people even value the thank you card or the follow up email thanking them anymore? What? How do you guys feel about that? What about you, Josh?
I know I do, and I know it definitely hits me. It impacts me taking that extra, couple of minutes, especially if they're handwritten. A lot of times, if they're blasts, it doesn't necessarily hit. And to your point with like tenants and being appreciated in the lifeblood, um, that's huge as well. It doesn't have to be cards are one thing, but also like just a text thanking them for being in your life, thanking like knowing about your tenants and kind of what they're going through helps. We've got tenants that some of them, like one of them's going through Rankin and he's super excited. And like at some point he wants to help us in our business and we'll just reach out to him every so often, ask how stuff's doing. Other tenants have life stuff that they're going through with their business. And it shows that we are treating them as the humans they are. Like you said, everyone has a value. So thank you cards work. Text messaging, and nowadays most people operate from text messaging. I grew up with no cell phone, so learning that's the thing. I'm trying to think what else. Social media posts are huge, and I'm starting to see a thing people are appreciating, and even myself, I'm starting to recognize this when I talk to other people. People appreciate being acknowledged for things that they don't necessarily see in themselves. So like Nathan, I know we've had conversations, your sales skills and your ability to do the social media and like acknowledging people for those things without having it in order to. And that's a lot of times what we end up bumping up against in business. And then in like tenants, a lot of times we'll do an acknowledgement in order to get something. It comes with an agenda attached, and people can feel that, they can sense it, they can experience it. If we can start just acknowledging people for the things they're good at without any other agenda, but to just say, hey, I see you and I see your value as you, like that will fill someone's cup for however long. But for like mine, I'll remember that for a week. And it's one of those things that it doesn't happen that often. And I think makes the world a better place nowadays.
Yeah, Travis, I know that based upon what Josh was saying, this is really big in a lot of the talks and things that you do, and that's the art of listening. And that art of listening to the other person, not listening to answer, but listening so that you can have an understanding and appreciation for who they are and what they believe. Can you speak? Because I know when you do your keynote speech and you talk a lot about listening, can you share with everybody about how important this listening is in connection?
It's about value. if if you and I are having a conversation and in the middle of this conversation, I see you're looking away, you're looking at your phone, or I can tell you're not listening to me, that portrays a sense that I don't value you as an individual and I don't value what you're saying. So it's very key when you're listening to someone to stay committed, stay focused to that conversation and let them know that the value of what they're saying is there. You don't even have to agree. You just have to be present. And a lot of that comes back to situations where, in society, I feel like we've lost the ability to agree to disagree. If I don't agree with you, well, then one of us is wrong. And when you listen to someone, you can pick up on things. I don't know that there's ever a conversation that you and I have. I don't ask you about your daughter. I know she plays volleyball. How is the volleyball team doing this weekend? There are other people that, you take the time and you learn their family dynamic. Do they have kids? Okay. I may be talking to you and we may have a conversation, but when is your kid's birthday? If I have that in my notes and I have it on my calendar, well, how cool would it be as your landlord sent your kid a birthday card or something like that? It shows a perceived value, and if somebody's having a bad day and you're having a conversation with them, okay, how about the next day, like Josh just saying, shoot them a text message. Hey, I was listening yesterday. I know you're going through some tough times. We're here if you ever need anything from a landlord's perspective. Listening to me, the number one key is it shows value of how you feel about that individual.
So then, Josh, there's the other side of it, right? Because you're about clarity coaching and getting people to take action on these things. So
Yeah.
it's one thing to listen and to listen to what's going on and show appreciation and value, but I think responsiveness is something that's extremely important also, right? So once you have the information, once you have listened, now you need to take action and do something about it. Tell us a little bit about your feelings on taking action and actually correcting an issue or improving, because you do a lot with personal development with people too,
Yeah. Yeah. So there's the property management piece of taking action and having that plan in place. Like tenants love, even if, kind of like Travis said, and you said it, even if it's not getting done today, because it's not urgent, communicating a responsive plan that you've orchestrated, you have in place, and like taking action. Now, in the personal development piece that we're talking about, a lot of times there are underlying reasons why that action won't take place. Either there's an overwhelm, there's a fear, there's a worry on the back end, and a lot of times it's, we don't take action because we are trying to make the perfect action as opposed to taking the action. I heard a phrase the other day that really kind of stuck with me. We're so worried about taking the right action that we don't take the action and make it right. And that really stuck, of like, at what point do you take the action, not needing to feel like it's perfect? Because you guys know as well as I do in business, we call it the what is it, the knowledge versus wisdom gap. Like, having the knowledge, we try to create the perfect plan, but you don't figure out what really works until you take action. And the difference between that knowledge, wisdom comes from the experience. The difference is, knowledge is knowing that tomatoes are a fruit. Wisdom is knowing you don't put it in a fruit salad, right? So the only way to do that is by taking an action and learning a lesson from that action, knowing sometimes they're going to be painful, sometimes it's not going to work. Same way with property management. Like, there are times where you have to troubleshoot a repair, you have to troubleshoot what's going on with a tenant, and you make the best decision possible based on the time frame. And sometimes it doesn't work, and it creates a whole different can of worms. Sometimes is what I call it, Pandora's box. And then other times, you have a good example. We were trying to sell a vacant building that we bought with our 11 unit, and it ended up getting us where, like, we had a $40,000 problem that we weren't aware of that popped up. Well, we could have sat and like hemmed and hawed and not taken action. And the whole thing was, no, we got to figure out how to make this work. We ended up moving forward on it, and it ended up that $40,000 trouble ended up being a $40,000 windfall for us. Now, can that happen all the time? Don't know. But if we had sat on our thumbs, it would have ended up being a $40,000 liability for us, if that makes sense. So we were so ingrained in, like, we just need to move forward and this will work itself out. And it worked itself out to probably be better than we could have ever planned for, if all that makes sense. It's
totally.
it's not getting, like, acknowledging there's fear of something and then being the person that is going to take the action anyway. And it's easy to say, and until you build that muscle, and it is a muscle, you don't get that wisdom from building that muscle. So
most of the time, because for Red Maples, they do a lot of onboarding with owners. Like, I go through the process and show people about our business and how important it is for them to do business with us. And so one of the things I have found is the reason most people don't take action is the exact reason why they should take action. And I'll say that again for those that are listening in the cheap seats. Like, those that don't take action, the reason they should take action is because of the reason they're not taking action.
Yeah.
We limit ourselves.
Yeah. The magic, the phrase that I've heard is, the magic you seek is in the actions you're avoiding.
100%. Speaking of avoiding actions, there's a number of communities that I'm a part of in the real estate industry. For one, I'm going to pitch and promote my Disciples of Leadership. If you're not a part of my Disciples of Leadership program and group, it's free. It's online. Just message me and ask. I'll be happy to get you a link to the Disciples of Leadership group so that you can participate online. You got to be a real person. You can't be some fake bot, because we share real life stories and principles from the Bible, and we relate those to John Maxwell books. And that helps us to have a better understanding of leadership in our own lives. That way I can add value to you for free. It's a free gift. There's no cost associated. There's no pitch. There's no promotion. It's literally just a free program. I do that the first and third Monday of every month at noon. The second community I'm a part of is there's this community called Tours and Pours in the real estate industry, and Red Maple sponsors Tours and Pours, and we're very excited about the opportunity to grow Tours and Pours and continue to move that organization forward with Lee Fjord and Megan Fjord at the helm of that organization, because that community fosters this exact thing that you get on the show, but in person. So where we are building a community on Mind Renovation Nation with you, the real estate investor, you get that in person and get to share and meet other people just like Josh or Travis at some of these different events. And then there's also the St. Charles County Real Estate Investors Association, headed by Michael Babcock, that we sponsor. And the reason we participate in that community is because it gives us the opportunity to share in small groups, to have questions and dialogue and talk through real estate strategies or implementing things or challenges that are going on. And then one of the last groups that I'll tell you that I'm a part of is I'm a part of Travis Durbin's mastermind group. He's invited me to be a part of some of those mastermind groups to share some insights and to participate in some of the learning that he has. Josh, you have a group of people that you cultivate in order to help. Tell us a little bit about this sense of community, and then I'll let Travis kind of get the last word around this community conversation. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And so this principle has actually come up pretty heavily. And one of the things, like acknowledging you, community for us is building an ecosystem, really. I'm starting to really wrap my mind around how, if we're built in the vision of our creator, then I used to be the guy that went out and did a whole bunch of different things with, like, I got bored after a couple years and then went out and did other things. And now I'm seeing leaning into and refining and continuing to come back to these foundational principles and build on them. One being community. Like, we've got 8 members in our coaching program, and we're looking to grow it this year. But these guys help each other on a daily, almost weekly, almost daily basis. We meet once a week, and they help each other. So we've got investors, we've got demo companies, we've got photographers, we've got car companies, and there is a ecosystem that is being built where you have not just acquaintances, but you've got allies that they're looking to do the same thing. They're approaching things the same way. They are like-minded. They are success oriented. They are what's another word? Solution oriented. And the big thing that you start seeing as you get higher and higher into performance, into success, into revenue, into all of these things where you start seeing it's greater, it becomes all about collaboration and helping the person next to you, knowing that will help yourself tenfold. And so getting into these communities is one of the greatest things that's done in my life. Like, I've been a part of masterminds. We're building out masterminds. Like, creating rosters. Nathan, you're one of those people that are in, like, my circle of, trading referrals back and forth and, like, looking to intentionally grow each other's business. I used to be the guy that thought you had to do it all yourself because it was a badge of honor. And, like, I wasn't that guy. And now I'm seeing, more and more on a daily basis, like, this is a team sport. Your ecosystem is so important. Your environment is so important. The people you surround yourself is so important. If you don't have the tribe, and there are lone wolves that work better alone, but for the majority of people, that is not the truth that I've seen. So,
how about you, Travis? What do you believe about community and this sense of community? Because properties, at least the smaller multifamilies, are community. And so, what do you believe about communities?
Well, I've been taking a long, hard look at this over the last couple of months, and 2 of the people I look up to, Grant Cardone and John Maxwell, they both say you can't do it alone. Doing it alone is not a successful blueprint anymore. And one of the things John Maxwell talks about is every single day he looks at, who can I grow with today? One of his goals every single day is to help someone else some way. He's intentional about it. Grant Cardone, one of his famous quotes, whether you agree with him or not, is okay. It's contacts equal contracts. Most business nowadays is a business to business relationship. It's a referral, as Josh was just talking to. And you're going to get that from your tenants as well. If you're a great landlord, you have a 11 building, a 11 door building, and you have a vacancy. How great would it be for one of your tenants to be like, my landlord is fantastic. You want to live here. And they fill those vacancies for you with their friends and their community. And that, people want to live in your buildings. So that's how I see it is, we are here to plant seeds. And the last thing I'll end with is one of the things I've been studying and reading in the Bible is, the Bible says we're not made to be alone. But one of the things it talks about is living life with people, not just having acquaintances. I want to do life with you. And if you take those community and those relationships, that's how you build success, not doing it alone.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to take a second just to thank you guys for being a part of my show today, and being on the show. I got a couple more things I'm going to walk through with the audience, but I really do, both of you. Thank you very much for sharing your heart about the importance of relationships when it comes to your relationship with your tenants. There's a lot of people that are missing on this, and they don't quite understand this. They see numbers and they don't see people. And I know that every single number represents a soul of somebody else that we got to care about. So thank you guys for taking the time to meet with me.
Yeah, and actually, Nathan, I'm gonna leave it off with one thing. I got a message yesterday. The guy I connected you with, Art, he sent me a message after our conversation. It was huge, and the bottom of his text said, "My currency is not money. My currency is connections. It can't be bought or sold. It's priceless." Same with your tenants.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. All right. I'd like to take a second now to thank our last sponsor of the show, BBC Global Services. One of your companies that you're really going to love working with is a vendor, is BBC Global Services. They're an outsourcing organization that helps real estate investors focus on their superpowers. They're simple and on your terms with no minimums. If you need a virtual assistant, look to BBC Global Services. Go to www.bbcglobalservices.com and speak with an advisor there today. Look, guys, I use BBC Global Services. I have a virtual assistant that helps with the productions of these shows. It's BBC Global Services helps with an international sense of community, helping you to learn things from different directions and different cultures and different viewpoints. And so this is an international labor force right now. I highly encourage you to go check out our second sponsor, BBC Global Services. All right, you guys know I love to wrap up these shows with a famous quote, and I look no further than Tony Robbins when it comes to relationships. And he says this: the quality of your life is determined by the quality of your relationships. And I find that to be absolutely true. One of the best relationships I have, the best relationship I have in my life is my relationship with God. The second best relationship I have in my life is the relationship I have with my wife. And it's so important that you have partners and team members on your side that can help give you warning or direction or correction, or people that love you and care about you. Other people that I have great relationships with are like Josh Weissler and Travis Durbin that you saw on this show today deliver their value. I couldn't have put this show together today without them. And that tells you, number one, how much I value them. Number two, how much I appreciate them. And that's what these relationships do. They help grow you. They help build you. They help you achieve, but it's not about you, because you're adding value to them constantly. These people wouldn't be in my life if I didn't spend a lot of time developing the relationship and adding value and showing appreciation for them. And so that's why Tony Robbins was so famously quoted saying, the quality of your life is the quality of your relationships. If you would like a portfolio assessment of your rental portfolio, we will help you review your rental portfolio to determine the next steps at Red Maples. We will review the profitability, the leverage, and the liquidity ratios for you on your properties, and then we'll provide you with a plan of action on the direction you should take with your real estate investing business based upon that performance. Should you sell assets? Should you refinance? Do you need to add additional properties? What does it look like with management services in place? Just head on over to www.red-maples.com/assessment, and our organization will be happy to get you a full comprehensive assessment of your rental portfolio. And that, Renovation Nation, brings us to the end of another episode. I'm Nathan Bush, your guide on this real estate journey of business growth. Remember, just like plants need the right air and soil to care, our minds need the right environment to build a life of purpose, passion, and growth. Join me next time for insights, inspiration, and of course, a little bit of nation building spirit that creates this sense of community united by shared values, purpose, and a commitment to leaving a lasting legacy. Don't forget to get your citizenship, by the way, in Mind Renovation Nation. The way you do that is by following us, subscribing to my YouTube channel, subscribing to my email list, and then share this show. Share this with somebody who you think would benefit from joining us Friday at noons to cover the information that we covered in today's show, just on future episodes. All right. Until then, keep building, keep growing, and let's lead more than 25,000 souls to a life of values-based investing. In our journey of Mind Renovation Nation, we often talk about personal growth, ethical leadership, and making impactful choices. Values-based investing is an extension of that philosophy. It's about being a steward not only of our finances, but also of the values and vision for the future. Signing off from the heart of St. Louis, guys. Stay blessed, stay inspired, and remember, every day is a chance to renovate your mind. Thanks, guys.